Hey, what's going on, everyone? It is Chris, and welcome back to once again another episode of the Survivor Podcast with my good friend Gocubs 711.
Some are more great, and some have greatness thrust upon them. But I smell funnel cake.
And that completely eliminates both. Once you could have greatness within you. You could be born with it, but once you smell the funnel cake, you've lost yourself in life. Wow. All right. So sorry to all those people that visit amusement parks. That's like the first thing you smell. I mean, you're lost soul.
I I appreciate your interpretation of my quote.
that's I think that's that was a pretty, it took me a while to think of it, but I
Yeah,
think it's a very strong quote that we all need to live by. Welcome back, everyone, to the Survivor Game Changers podcast, where we're gonna recap everything that happened in the latest episode. A lot of questions coming into here. Are we gonna see a merge or just switching tribes? Who's gonna be this person that magically shows up in the all of a sudden? Who's gonna go to Exile Island? So we have a lot of questions going into it. Let's jump in.
I was very excited to watch this episode.
Yeah, there's a lot of information, and it definitely a very filled episode, a very detailed episode. So we're gonna make sure we cover everything, and we're gonna start from the very beginning. After a great blindside episode,
Yes,
JT got voted out, uh, and they come back from tribal, and Aubrey was the sole person not to vote for JT, and she comes back, and she
second winner to get voted out. By the way,
oh J yeah, that's true, right?
yeah,
um so yeah, you have Aubrey who comes back from tribal, and she's on the outs, and she's worried, and she asks why was JT voted out and not me, and Sandra was like, well, because he betrayed the tribe, and once you betray the tribe, once you cross the queen, you can't. I think that was a synchro just now.
yeah. That's go us.
Yeah, and if you cross the queen, you get voted out. And Aubrey makes it pretty clear, hey, Sandra's controlling this game, and we need to get her out as soon as possible. That leads to the morning, back at Mana, where Ty is still figuring out what the hell to do with his idol. Now, the last episode he got, or how to find a new idol rather, but last episode he had the clue. The clue was that he had to pour water on a board. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So he had to pour water on a board. And he was trying to figure out, okay, what the hell is that are they talking about? And it turns out, and he figured it out. He was like, oh wait, the water well. So Ty goes up to the water well, starts pouring water on a bunch of stuff, and all of a sudden, I think it's like what was it, a ship wheel or anchor?
I think for them it was a ship wheel,
Ship wheel.
or
Um,
maybe an anchor for Mana. I think it was anchor for Mana's tribe.
it was two different shapes though, right? Because I felt
Yeah,
like it was, yeah,
yeah,
it's definitely different. So it was an anchor that appeared on one of the boards, and that immediately signaled to Ty, okay, so it's somewhere here. He digs into the ground, and he finds his second idol of the season. This is his first idol, and now we have this. Now Ty's like, all right, cool, I'm safe.
yeah.
I'll be good for the next tribal at least, or and we'll see what happens. All right, then we get to all the three tribes gathering back at what we first assumed would be the reward challenge, but no, it is the tribe. The tribes they dropped their buffs, and now it's a big change. And it turns out it's just a switch. So it was way too early to
Yep.
do a merge. It's time for just another switch. So Jeff goes around. He picks up a bunch of everyone picks up their new buffs. They open it up, and then here are the new tribes you have on Mana. You have Troyzan, Michaela, Brad Culpepper, Sari, Sierra, Aubrey, and Haley. And then on Nuku, you have Sandra, Zeke, Ozzy, Sarah, Jeff, Andrea, and Ty. Who's missing, Gocubs?
Demi.
So Debbie is all alone. She does not have a tribe, and so what the hell does that mean?
She looks very sad the entire time.
So Jeff tells her the news that we were expecting last episode. She's being sent to Exile Island.
Yep.
Basically out of random. Um, so, and now this is a pretty big deal because the main disadvantage of going out there. Well, first of all, what we know of Exile Island in the past has been going to this area. It's not very well set up. It's kind of like it's dreary, and yet you kind of have to fend for your own supplies. There's not really a shelter. Um, and the most important thing is that you're alone. You can't interact with any of your fellow castaways. You are alone for however long it takes.
Yes.
Now, Debbie has to go alone, and essentially we'll find out what tribe she's gonna be on next time. Now,
whichever tribe loses, she'll join.
well, we were gonna get to that, but yes, we did. Well, they didn't necessarily say that right out of the gate.
No, they did at the.
They did. They
that she was going to exile. They said that.
Oh, I missed
she knew that she was going to join whatever tribe lost.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that was gonna make sense. I didn't realize they had actually made that claim beforehand. So, all right, yeah, good catch then. All right, so then, so now she's sent to Exile Island, and I mean, my first thought when this happened, I was just like, all right, well then we might not have that much of an episode with Debbie, so that's pretty good. But maybe she needs the time away to maybe not be crazy, and
yep.
Although being alone will probably make you go absolutely nuts. We're gonna get to her a little bit later.
Okay.
But we start out with the new Mana tribe, where Choizan is thrilled to be on Mana, and he's just so glad to be off of Tavua because he was the one on the outside, and he still has his idol. That's a key factor. Now, Brad is looking for a new bond with people because the tribe is filled with girls, so I need to get with a guy, and the
testosterone.
I just automatically out of the gate. Yes, the gender lines have been it's been put down the middle. All girls on one side, guys on another. However. It's not just the two guys. Brad he's gonna be bonded with Troyzen, but Brad also has Sierra by his side. So you guys got three. Now they're just looking for a fourth one, and I don't think that actually happens this episode. But Brad, Sierra, and Troyzen essentially form an alliance, and that's probably the biggest news that comes out of the Mana tribe right now. I don't know. I think that this is now that you're kind of nearing the merge, because there can't be another tribe swap before the merge at this point.
No.
What do
No way.
What do you think about this particular alliance?
Between Brad and Troyzen?
Well, Brad, Troyzen, and Sierra. Like, I mean, because now I feel like now that we're in this last stage of the tribes, I would assume. These are probably going to be alliances that will extend past into the merge and stuff. So, in terms of a final three deal, how do you think that this would last? Do you think?
I think that they would all have to be really good at winning challenges.
Right. I mean, go ahead.
Because I feel like socializing for them, except for maybe Brad. I think Brad could do it. Well, maybe.
Well,
like the gaining the trust of other people, I think would be hard for them if those three were the alliance.
Yeah, Brad has a target on his back from Debbie. I mean, I don't know how, but you don't know who Debbie's got in the line with and convincing them that Brad's this like egomaniac that needs to control everything. That's at least in her mind. What that is happening. But people that weren't there for that could be easily convinced. So that would be my worry for Brad. But the good news for them is that they do have Troyzen, who has an idol. That if everyone goes after Troyzen first out of that group, there's a good chance that they'll come out of that safely. So yeah, just an interesting look into because now alliances really matter. Um, so now we get to the new Nuku tribe, and Sandra and Jeff are at the bottom. They lost their majority, or not really majority. It was just they lost they lost Michaela to Mana, and the rest of them are from I think Tavua. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure it
Yeah,
was
something like that.
yeah. It was Zeke, Ozzy, Sarah, Andrea. I think Ty was from the Mana, from the old Mana tribe. But yeah, so Sandra and Jeff are on the bottom, and Zeke and Ozzy immediately are like, all right, we need to get Sandra out because she's the biggest threat right now. I think at one point in the episode, I don't know if it's at this point or not, but Zeke basically says Sandra is the most elusive player, or even like the hardest player to get out in Survivor history because no one's ever actually gotten her out, and especially
Yeah.
when she makes merge, you can't get her out because there's too many physical threats around her, and or that need to be taken out first. So it's it'll be a tough task. So they want to get rid of her now. So they decide on a plan with Andrea to convince Sandra and Jeff they're going after Ty because Ty is like the outsider of that group. He's also known for finding a lot of idols. Speaking of which, Ty decides, you know what? I'm on this new tribe. Maybe they have the same clue on this tribe as I did in my last tribe. Maybe I could find the idol here as well. So he goes to that team's watering well, starts pouring the water. It looked at first that Ozzy was coming to see what Ty was doing, but I think that was just a tease on Survivor's part in editing.
Yeah.
But then he was pouring the water, and then all of a sudden, out pops the symbol. He starts digging in that spot, and he finds a second idol. So now, reminiscent of Heroes versus Villains, when I think it was Sandra again that had the two idols,
Yeah.
it might have been Parvati too. I don't know, but
I think the idols were played to save Sandra and Parvati by someone else. I just can't remember who it was.
yeah, I think it was either Russell, Parvati, Sandra. It was someone in that group, but that was
I'm gonna look it up while we're talking.
yeah, absolutely. But that was the first thing that popped in my mind. I was like, oh wow, so this is like the first time that someone has like two idols in their possession in a while. So that's a big thing for Ty, and he now has this huge safety net for a long time, and it depends on what happens, but I think that he could save himself really, especially if they do attempt to flesh an idol at one point, and then they do so, and then they don't realize that he has a second one to play again. So it's like, he can really play him, with that. So yeah, very very interesting. Did you find anything on it yet?
So Parvati played two idols protecting Jerry and Sandra.
Okay, so Sandra was involved in it.
Yes.
Okay, so that
And uh, JT went home because of that.
oh, look at that. So,
Yeah.
some connections of past All-Star shows, right there. Okay, so that's a fun little tidbit, and I think it would be interesting to see how Ty ends up playing those two idols down the line. If he does, he might be voted out like JT was last week with the idol in his pocket. All right, let's talk about Debbie's Exile adventure.
Usually Exile is just this really shitty place.
Yeah,
Really shitty island, isolated, sometimes a shack.
yeah.
Not this time.
Uh,
It's a boat.
No, this time it was a boat, and at first I was just like, okay, so it's a boat that maybe it's like she has to live on like a hardwood ship, have to eat like worms or something, like the bait
Nope.
that they have. No, in fact, it is a boat filled with food, a hammock, and many other luxurious things to enjoy on Exile Island, and that is when I got the text. Debbie got lucky. from Gocubs,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
I'm sure he was rooting for a little bit of torture for.
a little bit. I was happy to see that she was on Exile Island. Let's just say that.
Right, right. But a lot of crazy stuff happens here, though, and a lot of which can really affect the game going forward. Because yes, it's a luxurious place. Um, if Debbie really wanted to, if she actually did, I'd have a little bit of respect if she went back to her tribe, whoever she ends up on, and goes like, "Oh my God, guys, it was awful. I had to eat flies off the ground." I
Yeah,
slept in the dirt with a rock blanket. Like I just go into like this heavy detail, like terrible experience. But meanwhile, not only does she have all that, but all of a sudden she's laying on the hammock, and all of a sudden you see a speedboat in the distance. Who could this be exactly? And so it's getting closer and closer, and obviously at this point I'm like, all right, so this is gonna be probably the special guest,
special
former
guest.
castaway, and it turns out to be I would say my favorite survivor of all time,
John
Cochrane.
Cochran.
John Cochrane is back, baby, and he is ready to chat with
Debbie.
with Debbie. I'm sorry, I got distracted by something else. I apologize. Um, but yeah, so he sits down and talks with Debbie about her game, essentially giving her tips on how to handle the game. I didn't write a lot of this down. What I got out of it though is that he was kind of trying to stop her from being kind of cocky about the situation.
Yeah.
Maybe
How
apologize and suck up to Brad after she blew up on him. Uh,
amazing that they got two completely different castaways,
yeah,
or
yeah,
that Cochran ended up with, like doing stuff with Debbie just because of how different of people they are.
yeah. And I think, I mean, I would be shocked if if she actually follows his advice. But if she does, I mean, I think he gave her pretty good advice, and something
Yeah.
that she can use down the line. Like, I think that she definitely needs to tone it down a bit and maybe figure out, maybe build some fences or mend fences. That's the word. Uh, mend fences with Culpepper and just pretend to be nice with him, and then you can stab him in the back later on when you have a little bit more power. Speaking of power, there's one last twist to this Exile Island adventure, and this is when I was really like, okay, this is ridiculous at this point.
Yeah.
Um, she got to pick through three different advantages. She could have chosen an advantage in the upcoming immunity challenge. She could choose to cast one extra vote. And I forget what the third one was. I guess that's not. I guess it's not important. It clearly was not the one that she picked. But
I only remember two of them.
yeah, no, there definitely was a third because it was like
Okay.
it was the first one they mentioned. But regardless, it doesn't really matter. She didn't end up choosing that one, and she did not end up choosing the tribe advantage in the immunity challenge. She went with the one extra vote, which was
That's what I would have gone with, honestly.
yeah, it's the easiest one to pick. And this actually, before she actually even picked her advantage, she actually broke down and cried. I think that was the first time that I've seen any emotion other than just Debbie.
Yeah.
And angry Debbie, I guess, from last episode.
Right.
Um, but she like broke down in tears. Like she clearly finally broke and was just like, yeah, I've had a rough few weeks, and this is a big deal for me to get this advantage. And she got one extra vote, and that's gonna be huge play down the line. So I gotta say, not a fan of this. Not a fan, and I know if it was probably one of the more likable characters, I would be like, oh, okay, it's nice. But at the same time, I feel like she randomly was handed a trophy for
Yeah.
just drawing nothing.
I feel like it was like, if it was just one of the things, if it was like you get on a shitty island, but you get to choose one of these advantages, or you get on this really nice boat and get to talk strategy with Cochrane,
Yeah,
then it would have balanced out and not socializing with anyone.
well, right. Well, this is what I was thinking. Yeah, like I think you absolutely say it right. I think that you could have had where you had to live on the shitty island, but you got to talk to Cochrane. You had to live on the shitty island, but you got an advantage. Or you don't do either. You don't talk to Cochrane and you don't get an advantage, but you get to live on a luxurious boat. Like you could have
Yeah,
had it so that way. That was the three choices that she had to make, and this Exile Island experience. And at that point, that's fine. I feel like it was overload, though. I feel like they really handed her like a great, just a great slew of items on a silver platter, and she didn't really earn it. Um,
yeah.
so that's just my thing. Now, if she uses it well, if she because it's not going to win her the game.
No.
If she uses it well, though, it could. So if she uses it well, respect to her. We'll see what happens. So let's talk. So now we get away from Exile. We're not going to really see Debbie at all for the rest of the episode. So then we get back to the Nuku tribe, and Zeke and Jeff Varner are laying on the beach. And I wanted to ask you about this, Gocubs, because the first thing that you didn't start watching Survivor till Pearl Island, you said.
I think so.
Okay, because Zeke was just like, I'm gonna be the first one to admit that I like Jeff Varner. I don't necessarily hate Jeff Varner. I don't know why people don't like him. I would like to know why. Like just what he has done in the past, because I know like he had like this controlling aspect to him like a few seasons ago when he was on, but
Yeah.
I never really like hated him either.
No, me neither.
Yeah, so
Also, it was Pearl Islands was the last one that I didn't watch.
okay, okay, yeah, because I just wanted to know if there was some history with Jeff that people were just like, oh, he's horrible
I
or
don't
something.
I don't remember Jeff at all, except for
Yeah,
except for Second Chances, obviously.
right, yeah. Yeah, but I think I've enjoyed Jeff this far this season,
Yeah.
and I think that maybe what Zeke meant by that was just like, oh, he's on the other side, and I'm gonna admit, yeah, I like him. So, and Zeke was like, all right, I want to work with him, but I still have to lie to him about Sandra going home and Ty being the one that actually is gonna be, or rather, Ty lie to him about Ty going home. Meanwhile, it's actually Sandra who's gonna be getting the boot.
Yeah.
And so he ends up doing that, and Jeff actually goes to Sandra and tells her about it, and Sandra does not seem too happy about it. She's just like, okay, I don't really trust that though, but considering that, we're easy targets, why would they target one of their own, who was originally on a tribe with them at Nuku, at the very first Nuku, so she was cautiously optimistic about it, I guess.
Yeah.
All right, we get to the immunity challenge. You remember the immunity challenge at all?
Uh,
Water obstacles and barrels and puzzles and
you just say it because I'm completely
yeah,
blanking right now.
yeah. That's essentially what it was. It was just they started out in the ocean, then they swam a little bit, did like monkey bars, and then essentially each team had to load up I guess like a sleigh, or like a yeah like I would call it a sleigh,
Oh
um,
yeah.
onto on like that's like on top of like a platform, and move puzzle pieces onto that sleigh, and then essentially they all had to pull that sled all the way um, off the platform, onto the beach, and then uphill on the beach all the way to like a mat, and then essentially once they reach that mat, they go ahead and start making like a puzzle pyramid out of barrels. Essentially was the puzzle pieces, and the first one to do that wins. And so nothing really too exciting. Mana took an early lead. Nuku fell behind, and it never really Nuku didn't end up catching up. And I think this was Mana. Mana got a big old win, a big old W, and Nuku would have to go to Tribal, and
Yep.
now Nuku is also going to be the home of one Debbie.
my roommate kept making the joke that like the real prize for winning the immunity challenge was not having Debbie on your tribe.
I said the same thing. I was just like, yeah, you really do not want to lose this challenge. I mean, you may
Yeah.
lose someone. I mean, that's pretty bad, but then you get Debbie. Um, so so then we get back to Nuku, and already, we don't know what's gonna end up happening, and this is where things really take a turn for me because I'm like, I'm like getting everything to this point, and then I'm just lost from pretty much from this point on. But yeah, I mean, well, I think it's more happens at Tribal, but we'll get there. Um, so then Sandra starts convincing Zeke, Ozzy, and Andrea, and warning them about the Korong 3. Or Kalrong. I said Quran. That is a. I believe that is the Muslim book of religion. That's that. Quran. Essentially, the Quran 3 are Aubrey, Debbie, and Ty, and say that you don't want those three to make it to the end. So you should get out Ty now, and I would be an asset to you. I would be able to help you guys out down the line. And so, that's that. And then essentially, Sarah, Ozzy, and Andrea, all are sitting there, and they're like, "Yeah, Sandra was trying to wheel us in just now, and it almost worked. We almost was like, oh yeah, that makes sense." But they're saying, Sandra is, she's really good at trying to bring people in. The soft tone that she uses, it's that easy manipulation tactic. But we're not going to fall for it. But then Ty happens, and Ty decides to say in front of Jeff Varner that we're going to get Sandra out. Why? Can I just say, when this happened, I was just like, why am I not surprised? I am not surprised that Ty blew it.
Fucking mouth shut.
Ty blew it. So Ty's right in front of Jeff Varner, and Ozzy's there, and Ozzy's just like, what the fuck? So Then Jeff Varner runs to Sandra and tells her that Ty is just saying that he's gonna be voting Queen Sandra out, and Sandra's just like, well, now I'm gonna be using Ty and I'm gonna be trying to get him out. No matter what, I'm gonna use any tactic that I can use in order to get him out. So then we get the Tribal, and in comes Debbie, who's gonna be like kind of like a juror, I guess, but like she's just sitting on the side observing the Tribal before she rejoins Nuku. And nothing really happens in the very beginning. They kind of talk to Sandra, and Sandra's kind of like, well, yeah, I think my adventure here is done. I think I'm done. I don't think I'm gonna be able to. I'm gonna be able to stay for another week. I just, no one has talked strategy with me. I'm done. And then Jeff turns to Ty, and Ty proceeds to kind of be like really nervous and like saying just saying like things like I'm not gonna say that Sandra was the target, but we have to vote her out. like shit like that. And like he's getting like really nervous for some reason. He's not really answering questions correctly. And then all of a sudden, I forget what triggered this, but Sandra was just kind of like, I'll vote with you, Ty. You just tell me who you want to vote out. You tell me who you want to vote out." And so Ty then all of a sudden goes and whispers to Sandra. And then Ty gets up, whispers in Jeff Varner's ear, and Sandra, while Ty's back is to her, basically tells everyone, he said Ozzy. And so Ty sits down and it's just like, I'll just tell everyone. I said Ozzy. And at this point, I'm just like, what is happening, Ty? What are you doing? And so
Ty has such a great talent for finding idols. And then he does shit like this.
And so then everyone's just like, what the hell is happening? And then they start discussing, maybe we should get outside.
They go back into the whispers.
Zeke is like, who do you trust, Ty? Who do you trust in this game right now? How can we trust you if you're going to throw Ozzy's name out? So this all happens, right? And I'm like, well now, now I have now I'm at this point where I'm just like I am really confused at the moment. Like I just like what did you do you think that Ty was like actually just like screwing this up for himself, or do you think that some
I
of this was planned?
I legitimately thought that Ty was about to go home holding two idols.
Well, here's the thing. This is my train of thought because I was just like, well, wait a minute. Okay, maybe he's doing this on purpose. Maybe he's causing the stir, and then maybe he's gonna play his idol, and then that way, because he has two idols, he doesn't really have
Yeah,
much to lose. Um, and I was like, I was kind of hoping, like, you know what? I think Ty has some kind of sanity, just some that can actually just make some kind of sense, right? So we get to the votes, and everyone starts voting, and it's obviously like I at this point I'm thinking, yeah, Ty is done because like
yeah,
unless he plays the idol, you know,
which he didn't.
hold on a second.
Okay,
Unless he plays the idol, you know, I just don't see him getting out of this. And so then we get to the votes, and we get to the votes, and like you just said, he does not play his idol. So at this point, I'm like, oh my god, what in the fuck
I
is
was, I
happening?
was,
This
I
was like
was
the
like,
biggest, one of the biggest meltdowns since I think like like 2 seasons ago, with that one girl from the Braun tribe that kind of basically stood up and was just like, that like you remember that girl that she like kind of like stood up at tribal and said something. I completely forgot the context of everything, but
yeah,
she was just having like she completely dug herself a hole and she ended up getting voted out. I was like, this is gonna be the worst meltdown since then, even worse than that, and it's gonna be terrible for Ty. And then it's one vote Ty, two votes Ty, and then one vote Sandra, two votes Sandra, three votes Sandra, and the next person voted out. And for the first time in 94 Survivor days,
it's
Sandra
fucking
has
insane.
been voted out of Survivor. And I wrote down on my notes what just happened because I am confused as fuck, man. What was that?
It was Ty not playing his game well, but people still seeing that Sandra was a huge threat. They had a chance to get her out, so they got her out.
And I think, I mean, that's probably what ended up happening. But if someone outwardly says, "Yeah, let's vote out Ozzy," I find it hard to believe that Ozzy wouldn't be like, "Okay, let's vote out Ty." You know what I mean? Like, I get that maybe they felt like, okay, wait a minute, we have the
I think that
numbers.
Ozzy's just along for the ride right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's maybe it's one of it too. But I would think that like Sandra didn't has not like hasn't actually said Ozzy's name, and Ty literally just did in front of everyone. So I would think, okay, then why would you not target him? I mean, what my theory was is that they kind of planned this, that they kind of knew this was going to happen, but I don't know how competent they really thought Ty was going to be for that to happen. So I'm walking away from this very confused, and I really would like to know what happened because I really I try my best to think the best for Ty, and I do like Ty. He just is not fit to play this game except for just finding idols.
Yeah,
Um,
that's why you want Ty to be in an alliance with you because he can find idols.
right, and also like he's made some pretty big decisions. Now, to be
Yeah,
fair, of course, he's been convinced into those a lot of the times, but he made those big moves. He definitely has a pair on him that he's really been able to make big moves. But
hmm
other than that, you really question Ty's ability to play the game and how much more is that going to work. And again, if it does come back and it was staged, what brilliant editing by Survivor to not fill us in at all. Because
right.
I just walked, I'm walking away from this like what the fuck. I have a lot of questions, but I would like to say, and like love or hater, Sandra is, I think you could say, one of, if not the best survivor of all time. Um,
Right.
I mean, people are gonna say, Boston Rob. They will say Ozzy, and they'll say other people, but to not have been voted out at all
For
uh,
94 straight
for
days.
94 straight days, and to have actually still gone pretty deep into this season as
Yeah.
well. I mean,
Right.
that's a pretty big deal, and
Yeah.
it's really I tip my hat to her. I think that she's done a really good job. But she is no longer going to be part of this season, and she's not even going to be on the jury. I think she would have been a fun jury member, but
Yeah.
unfortunately, that's not
You
going
want
to
to hear
happen.
fun facts about Boston Rob?
Sure, sounds good.
Boston Rob was never on the jury.
Oh, really?
He was either voted out pre-merge
Or he won?
or made it to the finals.
Or did he win though? I thought he won.
Yeah, he won.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
But
yeah.
there was another season where he made it to the finals, but then lost to his now wife.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot about that storyline.
Yeah,
Um, that was like his first season, wasn't it?
that was the second season.
Second season. Okay.
My first season watching.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So a lot of interesting stuff, but now we know for a fact that we're going to have a new winner. That's it. That's an interesting, a new winner, someone that we kind of knew from, uh, from previous seasons, that we definitely knew from previous seasons, or that we just like, oh, maybe you're kind of a new face, even though you're an alumni
Yeah,
that we don't know a lot of. Um, but I enjoy that. I enjoy that we're not going to have like a third or second time winner. We get a new one altogether.
right.
Um, yeah, very nice job with this episode. Again, very confusing. It'll be an interesting episode next week to see how they kind of how they spin whatever happened there. Um, so let's get to the predictions.
All right.
Assuming that next time on Survivor, Mana. I wrote this down too. Mana starts breaking down. It looks like a bunch of people are crying. I don't know why. Um, and on Nuku, Sarah is actually looking to get. Sarah and Jeff are looking to get Ozzy out. So
All right.
those are some spoilers for next time. Um, well, not spoilers. That was just their previews.
In the preview.
All right, let's do some predictions. Next tribe to win the immunity challenge. Who do you think?
I'm gonna say Nuku wins actually.
Nuku wins. Okay, so Nuku wins. They're okay. And what do you think happens at tribal?
Something weird is gonna happen, and Brad Culpepper's gonna get voted out.
Brad Culpepper is a goner. Okay. By the way, I think you got Sandra going out.
I
Correct?
did.
Yeah, good for you.
Yeah, and
So
you got the fact that Brad's tribe won.
there you go. Works out. All right, so then so for me, I think I'll stick with Manda winning again because it feels like a season where just streaks are gonna keep on happening. So Nuku's gonna
Yeah.
go for their fourth straight tribal. And I think that I don't think Ozzy's actually gonna go home. But I think instead tables are going to be turned on Sarah, and Sarah is actually going to be the one going
Oh,
home because I think that she's
all
going to
right.
be the one that's going to start being like, oh, maybe we should go get out Ozzy, and then like Andrea, Zeke, and Ozzy are all going to catch on, and they're going to get her out. That's ASAP. Um, so yeah, and Ty as well, I guess. If he is welcome back into that fold, which I think that they'll keep Ty around because
Yeah.
I don't know, he's just annoying. All right, and that's it. That is it. Stay
Yep.
tuned. I would say in the next few days, we're gonna have the MMG podcast returning for episode 2. Got a lot of
Ooh.
sports to talk about. Sportsy things. Recapping March Madness, I believe, is going to be one of them. We'll predict the NFL schedule, as I've done all year, and hopefully Gocubs will be able to join me. Will be able to help me out with that as well.
How exactly do you fucking predict a schedule?
You'll be surprised. We got a system. That's what we're going to talk about after the podcast.
Okay.
We're going to work it
Okay.
out.
All right.
And then we'll do the NBA, NHL, and MLB champion predictions. I know you don't necessarily watch the NBA or maybe I don't think either of us are really as invested in those three leagues compared to the NFL. But
Right.
we'll I think we could try our best in predicting who'll be in the championship games and who will end up
Sure,
winning them.
let's do it.
We'll try our best. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. We'll be back next week with a new episode of Survivor Podcast.
Brush your teeth. Your breath stinks.
Be good to
My
one
advice to
another.
the Brush your fucking teeth.
Be good to one another. Be kind to one another. Yeah, stay clean, please. And I'll see you guys next time. Don't smell the funnel cake. Bye bye.